in 12 coverage tonight.
Mike, Rachel, aviation is one of the leading industries here in the city of Wichita, and with Boeing buying Spirit AeroSystems, the question of economic impact, both positively and negatively, have been brought up. Employing thousands of Wichitans, aviation is one of the leading industries in the city. However, with Boeing buying Spirit AeroSystems, employees are worried about any upcoming changes.
Well, we're supposed to be the air capital, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna put a big impact on the town, for sure.
Greater Wichita Partnership's Vice President of Economic Development says economically the partnership may not be a bad thing.
Boeing is one of the largest aerospace companies in the world, and they're a major U.S. exporter, one of the leading exporters. And so from a Wichita standpoint, this is a great opportunity for us to continue to expand globally our leading aerospace supply chain and our presence as a leader in commercial aviation and in aerospace.
Many of unanswered questions, but as of right now, everything will not be finalized until 2026. In Wichita, Julia Daughtry, 12 News.